now going to touch the pad. Everybody in the world fused. Yeah. Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. Now, this is a bit of an update on the workshop and the next stage. You may remember that if you've been following the progress of the fitting out of this building and making it into a real workshop, because it was only really two single garages originally. They're about double length, so it's about 8.5 meters from memory by about 6.5 meters wide. But the problem is the building was built in two separate stages over the years, and there's a wall basically that runs, a supporting wall that runs between the two buildings. I can't be having that in the way. So if you look up there, look, you'll see a big orange steel RSJ beam, and if I just move the camera, hang on, bear with me, you can see it goes right across, where's my finger, right across there, look, across the workshop. And there's another one, and you're going to see it, oh, you can't see it that way around, can you? Hang on, just bear with me, we'll go mobile. So if you look there, look, there's another one there, so we've done two, and you'll see a lot more detail of those, you know, if you watch the other videos. So, whilst making those beams, I encountered a problem with the MIG. And it didn't seem quite as powerful as it used to be in the UK. And when you're welding those big beams, you know, it's pretty thick stuff. And there's a lot of heat generated, and you're welding for a long period of time. And you need that penetration of weld into the metal to maximize the strength of your weld and the joint. And I was finding that just wasn't happening. So I investigated, and I rummaged off down the workshop, and I'll show you what I've got, and I found the main power feed in to this building. Let's take a look. So if we wander down here, you can see the wall now, look, and I have got rid of some of it because of those two beams. We've managed to get the benches in and so on, and a bit of a walkway, and it's sort of, everything's hanging up there with a bit of luck at the moment. We'll head across this way, and you'll see it in the other videos, but I just want to recap. Coming in down here, let's just set up the tripod, hang on a minute, just bear with me. There you go. Right, so you can see now, this is the cable that's coming in, and it's actually really small cable. It's not very good. So what I did to sort of maximize or minimize the volt drop, because that comes all the way from the house, is originally that cable ran all the way along, and the plug was somewhere around about here on the timber. I think I actually moved it even further, because it was over here somewhere, one of those original beams that was running vertically where the bench is now. So I moved it down a bit, obviously slight improvement, and then moved it all the way down so to really keep the length of that cable quite short. So it comes out of the ground, onto there, turns left, comes down, there's your plug. Okay, I suppose I could have gone from there to there to there, which would have been even shorter, but hey, it's a massive improvement, but it's still not good enough. Oh, while we're here, there's the conduit. Yeah, sneaky peek. That might give you an idea what's going to happen next. Back to the bench. Okay, so you can see the power supply to the workshop at the moment is not ideal. It really isn't. I mean, it does okay, but once you get all the lights on and everything as well, I mean, I'll tell you a little secret, because I didn't film it. When I was doing the main joints of those beams, I turned all the lights off, and all I had to see before I struck up the arc was torchy. That's it. So as soon as I finished welding, all that was illuminated in here, and that's how the door's shut because it's a MIG, so you don't get the wind, you know, blowing the gas away. It was me in the dark with torchy doing the welding, and then when the welding was finished and I had some more grinding to do or cut some more steel, I turned the lights back on and carry on. And by doing that, it maximised the power that the MIG had available, minimised the volt drop. minimise the load on that cable coming into the workshop, and believe me, it's crap. So it has been a plan, and before I produced the beams 3 and 4, and they were made probably 6 months ago, so a lot of time has passed, unfortunately. I decided it would be prudent to upgrade the power supply for the workshop, because it's got to be done at some point anyway. So let's do it now, and then we're going to benefit, you know, when we're doing the welding for the last 2 beams. And there's still quite a bit of steel work to go up. We're about halfway, roughly. So to do that, we needed some cable. So hang on, I'll grab the cable. Oh, jeez. Okay, so here we have the cable, and maybe you can see there's an end of it. Now when I went to go and pick this up, I got quite worried actually, because I thought, shit, I ordered the wrong cable. Because if you look inside there, as I did, you will see it's a single core. That's just one wire in the middle, and then you've got the red insulation, and then you've got this outer armour, and then you've got the black sheathing, the final outer coating. Oh, how's that going to work? I was speaking to Troy up at Russell Electrical, just down the road, and he says, oh, you know, don't panic, Andy. I says, but hang on, there's, you know, your live, your neutral, and your earth. That's 3 wires, not 1. What's going on? And he said, no, don't panic, don't panic. He says, what the electricians do, is they use the centre as your live. This is great. And he says they use the armoured section around the outside as your neutral, and then your ground, well, that's a wire that goes in the ground. There's your 3 wires. So I'm asking you, is Troy pulling the wool over my eyes? Which I very much doubt, because he's a good lad. And is he correct? Or did I really order the wrong cable and should change the cable? It's a bit late now, isn't it? But anyway, to give you an idea of size, there's a tape measure going across there, so it should give you an indication. Hang on, there you go, look, you can count the number of millimetres. I've got the original invoice, so I can read out exactly what it is. It's called, here in New Zealand, there goes the air compressor, on schedule, it's 25mm CU1C-NS. Hang on a minute, I'm going to show you the actual invoice. I don't want to give any addresses away, but oh, Jesus, there's 30 metres of that. I'm just going to fold this bit of paper over so you can see what's going on. And if we do that, oh, look at this, live on camera. There, yeah, I think you can see all of that. That should be alright. Okay, so if you look on there, look, it's the top one. So that's what it's called, 30 metres, and that's what it cost me. Hopefully that's not too expensive. But I don't buy this stuff very often, so I don't know. But there you go. That's what we've got. And that cable is going to be wired in by a professional, an electrician, not me, because I'm not qualified in electrics. I'm just going to do the run, you know, put the cable and the conduit up between the main, where the meter's housed, the meter box. It's going to be connected to the meter box and then run directly to the workshop. And then at this end, it's going to go into its own sort of fuse boxy thing. Now this is the cover for the fuse box, and I got a metal one because it's a workshop. That's what you should have. And that's what it is. And it's pretty cool. And we've also got the housing that goes on the wall, which is that bit there, and that's got all the little, you know, buzz rails and buzz bars and bits and pieces there to clamp all the wires. So hopefully that's going to work. I don't know. Jeez. Like I say, I'm not an electrician. Now, we also got some circuit breakers and stuff to go in the fuse box. So we've got the main one, that's that one there, look, oh, there you go, and then when it gets tripped, turn it off down there. Oh, that's right, yeah, that's on, there you are, look, on, off. So that's good, and that's when Andy shorts the MIG out, it flicks off. Hopefully, and that one is, what was it, 100 amp? Should say somewhere, shouldn't it? No. What's it say on the sheet? Sorry, it's gonna be one of those weird videos. It did say we read them out. Yes. 40, a 32, a 16, a 10. 1, 2, 3. That's those. Hang on, what's the main one then? I don't know. Main switch, right at the bottom. Yeah, look. Sorry, it took a while. 100 amps. Oh, also, I've fitted 2 of the LED lights now. They're actually behind me. That's why I'm lit up slightly better. Not using torch anymore. On the far wall to light me when I'm doing pieces to camera. All these lights behind are still fluorescent, and that's why we're getting that flickering. But they are going to get fixed. I'm not going to get rid of the fittings. I'm just going to mount some circular LED. This is the plan. LED lights in the fittings, but we'll see. So we've got a 100 amp main switch, and then we've got these ones here. We've got a 40 amp. It's pretty good, isn't it? 40 amps. A 10, 16, and a 32. Now, the plan is there's going to be 4 circuits in the workshop. One will be a lighting circuit, like it will be in England. We just do lighting and that's it on a circuit. There'll be a ring main for the power sockets. And then there's going to be a dedicated line just for the MIG, only for the MIG, nothing else. And then there'll be another line probably to run the lathe and other high current consumer items. So that's the plan. Like I say, I worked it all out quite a while ago, so I had to forget. Now, you've seen the conduit down on the floor. I think I'm going to run out of these. I might think some more. We've got some 90-degree beds. They don't do 45s, they do 90s, which I thought was a bit odd. But anyway, we've got these. We've got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've only got 8 of those. That's not enough, is it? We need about 20 probably. And we've got in the bag lots and lots of the little saddles that hold the conduit against the, well, whatever you're screwing it against, which in this case, fortunately, is timber. Now, I had a choice of how I was going to get the cable from the house to the workshop, as in, is it going to be underground or is it going to be above ground? Now, the original plan was to do it underground, and we'd have had to cut through only one concrete path to lay the cable. Obviously dig the trench and so on, and there's minimum depths and things. And we'd have needed to use the armoured cable like we've got now, and we'd have had to use the conduit. But also here in New Zealand, you also have to put, so I'm told, a steel plate above the conduit, maybe a bit of a gap, I'm not sure on the specs. So if somebody's digging down, it gives them an indication there's something underneath, and maybe some little, screw-on badges, signs along the length to warn somebody there's a cable below. That all got a bit complicated. So I thought, well, I've got to build a carport anyway on the concrete in front of the garage. There's going to be another one on the side as well. But if I start to build that and get a few of the posts in, then I can run the power, the conduit cable up and over the carport beam. And that way the whole cable is airborne, above ground. Don't need to dig, don't need to put any steel plates in, don't need any signs, and it's bloody obvious where it is because it's orange and it's screwed to some wood. So that was the plan. That is the plan, actually. So I'm going to be doing that this afternoon because it's gorgeous weather, and I'll do a bit of filming to that. I'm not going to film the whole thing because I'm sure you can imagine somebody screwing a bit of conduit to a wall and then threading a bit of wire through and then sticking a 90 on it and then doing a bit more conduit and threading the cable through and whatever. So it shouldn't be too hard. Now, for you electricians out there, correct me if I'm wrong, the regulations here in New Zealand are that a qualified electrician must do all the wiring which is classed as permanent. Because, us mere menial public could kill ourselves doing that kind of stuff. But everything after a plug or a socket joint is not required under law to be done by a qualified electrician. It can be done by somebody, normal. Sorry, electricians, you know what I mean. For example, when I was at school, I was taught by Gerard, my physics teacher, who's now passed away, unfortunately, how to wire up a plug. Well, actually, I'll tell you the full story because I like to ramble. We had, on our first lesson, went into class, he introduced himself, and on the desk was a plug and a bit of wire. And he said, right, I'm going to run a little competition just to break the ice. Each of you can wire up a plug. Off you go. And there was wire cutters and little screwdrivers and stuff also on the desks. He'd put everything out for us that we needed. And of course, some of the pupils had no idea how to wire up a plug. Others bumbled their way through. However, I, at the age of, God, how old was I? 13? 12? No, probably about 13 years old. I'd wired up heaps of plugs by that point. You know, in my shed, putting plugs, replacing plugs on power tools and bits and pieces. So off I went. And my grandfather, who again has passed away unfortunately, he showed me how to do it, and I had it done within 3 or 4 minutes, and I was way ahead of the rest of the class, and I was quite happy about that. And he took a look at it and he says, yep, that's bang on. And since then I've always done my own wiring. I even wired up my own workshops in the UK, all of them. Never had a electrician involved, but here in New Zealand they're pretty tight, so we'll do it properly. So here we've got the fuse box, and then the power coming out of the fuse box. There's going to be 4 lines. Some of those lines will just go directly into a 16 amp plug. Now obviously there's, you can't run there's no point in running a 40 amp supply through a 16 amp plug. However, this is what the MIG runs on because it's the largest single phase MIG that I could get at the time. This is about 20 years ago. It's about 250 amps is what it's rated at. Murex Trade MIG, 251, there you go, so I was 1 amp out. So Murex Trades MIG 251, so it's 251 amp. So that MIG will obviously have to run off one of these. I can't really go any bigger than this. But the plan is, for the lighting for example, the lighting circuit will again go through one of these. So all the wiring for the lighting, because it's not permanent lighting, because it's downstream of the plug, I can do legally. There you go. Now also, you may have noticed around the workshop that every single one of these lights is actually on a plug and plugs into a multi-board, and the reason for that is I can move them around. If I'm doing a particular project, I can just put a couple of hooks in the ceiling and then shuffle the lights across. Maybe I need a bit more height because it's quite low, this workshop, a bit of height somewhere else, and I can just move the lights around to suit. It also makes it a lot easier when I'm putting the beams up and things because there's still work going on, and I am going to be re-roofing the workshop come the summertime. Another big job because the corrugated iron is pretty crap, and when it rains it's really, really noisy, so I want to come up with a plan of having some kind of roof sheeting, covering, whatever it is that I use, that's not going to be anywhere near as noisy. It's going to sort of damp the rain, so to speak, when it hits. Corrugated iron is very, very noisy. Okay, well we're pretty much there. We've covered the conduit, we've covered the conduit bends, we've covered the plugs, the theory behind the whole thing, why it's going to be above and not below ground. We've got the fuse box. I think we're pretty much there. So I'm going to head outside. I'm going to crack on. I'll fire up the camera every now and again, and of course when the job's done, and we'll do a summary. Right, in the meantime, it is Saturday. It's 20 to 12, so in 20 minutes time you can have your first cider. Alright crew, see you later. Time to paint. Get through. Jeez, it's pretty tight. God. This is going to be a nightmare. Can't leave it like that. I have to go in the box. Oh well, there goes. This is where electric shit happens. Okay, well, the cable's going to come up in that far corner there, look. I have no idea what's behind this panel. I'm not taking the panel off. I want to look down there and see if there's a gap. Can you see the hole? We can, it's a clear run. I reckon we can do this. Holy shit, wish me luck. Right, first job, I'm going to slacken this off again. I'm going to take it off altogether. Again. Sorry about the wind. Ooh, lots of wind. I'll be happy when this end's done. Back. Right, that should give us a bit more movement now. I'm just gonna get rid of that for a bit. Shit. Just slacken that as well. And I just want to thread that up. Let's have a bit more cable. Just going to thread that up through the back of that board and out over the top. Hopefully it won't die. And then I can put this conduit just poking through the hole, and then we're all done. Shit. You should be alright. Everything's insulated. Oh, spiders. Okay, so we can post that in there now. Get rid of some of this excess. That on there. Bring that down. Whew. Then put our saddle back on. Wow. Still alive. And then we can get on with the real job, can't we? Hey, come back, we need two. Yeah. Hopefully they'll see the hole. Always my problem. We'll just tuck that under there. Shut the door. That's it. Alive, alive-o. I'm back, and it's no longer Saturday. I just cracked on and got the job done. The weather started to turn. It got very, very windy. It didn't rain, but it got incredibly windy. So filming was a bit difficult. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't have the best afternoon. The job went really well, but I did get a blister. Look at that. It's huge to his side profile. And that was, it's massive. I've not had a blister like that for a long time. That was from basically pulling the cable through the conduit. What a ball ache of a job, honestly. I suppose it had to be done. And there is no way that I could have put all the conduit up and then tried to thread that cable through. It just would not happen. It was extremely rigid, was that cable, very difficult to, to bend. And putting those 90 degrees on, you had to bend the cable, and then you could move it 3 or 4 inches along the cable, then bend the next bit and move it along. It was just, well, anyway, wear gloves. You'll get a blister otherwise. So, it's now Sunday. Just had my cheese and pickle sandwich, which was very nice, although not accompanied by a bottle of cider. Maybe I'll save that a bit later on. I've still got lots to do. And I've got to drive back to Auckland tonight, because I'm flying to Sydney tomorrow. It never ends in my life. There's always stuff to do. Anyway, I thought what we'll do is... before we go outside and take a look at the finished job, I was very conscious about running out of those 90-degree bends. So I thought, well, let's go onto the Marley website. Marley make the conduit. And at that point, I became aware of the fact there are 2 types of conduits. There is conduits to go under the ground, and then they have a different conduit that's above ground. It seems to be white in colour. Well, as you can guess, my conduit is orange. It's underground conduit. And I do remember when I put through my first request for a quote with Russell Electrical, it was the plan was to put the cable underground. And I think I forgot to tell them that I'd changed my plans and was going to put it above ground. So I'm hoping that you can use underground conduit above ground. Based on the specs, it does seem that the underground stuff is a bit stronger. So using it above ground, that's only a benefit, isn't it? I hope so. I really don't want to have to redo it all over again. But hey, if need be, I will. And yes, I'll wear gloves. Now, so I went onto their website and I wanted to see if it was possible to actually bend the conduits. Now, I don't have a pipe bending machine for conduit, but it did say on the website, and you'll laugh at this, it said to rub the conduit in the place that you want to put the bend, to rub it with a rag. That was it. There was no further details, there was no step-by-step guide. It just said, rub the conduit with a rag. So I did. Nothing happened. It was like rubbing a lamp. Nothing happened. So then I wrapped the rag around the conduit and used friction, because obviously, I assumed it was going to be a heat-related thing rather than just magic, and couldn't really get any proper heat put into the conduit to even get it to move at all. It also mentioned to use a spring inside the conduit to prevent kinking and to give you a nice even bend. I don't have one. Nobody mentioned to me that that's what you would need to, I didn't even know you could bend it. I will get a spring for next time when I do the job. So I thought, well, I really have to put some gradual bends along this conduit, in certain places, and you'll see this when you go outside, because just using 90-degree bends, it just wasn't going to work. It was just ridiculous, I was going to use that many bends and it was going to look crap. So I used a heat gun. Yes, a heat gun. I was very careful with it, very gingerly applied heat evenly around the pipe, and just applied a little bit of pressure, and then gained a few degrees of bend. And if I wanted any more than that, then I would bend it a bit further along. I wouldn't try and do too much of a bend in one place, because that's where the spring comes in. And I did actually do it, all in one place to start off with, and it created quite a rib on the outside edge, on the inner radius, which looked, again, terrible. So I decided that was a bad idea and redid that bit. I have ended up with almost 2 full lengths of conduit remaining, and I think it's about 5 metre lengths or something. It's pretty long. So I've got plenty of spare. So let's head outside and we'll take a look and see how the job went. Here we go. So there you have it. Not a bad job in the end, but it was pretty painful doing it. Now, there was a few things that I felt helped to make the installation better, and bearing in mind, you know, just bear in mind, I'm not a qualified electrician, but, you know, fitting conduit, pretty simple, isn't it, really? But by having your little saddles equally spaced, I did mine every 500 millimeters, 50 centimeters, it just looks tidy, you know. Now, if there was a reasonable gap, you know, say just under 50 centimeters before a bend or a right angle, then I would stick an extra saddle in there just to give it more support. And by sticking to those sort of basic rules, I thought it looked pretty good by the end of it. And I've only got probably about 10 of these things left, and there's quite a lot in the bag. No idea how many what. There will be on that original invoice. Look at that. That's gone in the bin now. Okay, well, let's do one of those pipe bends. I'll show you what not to do, and if you can get a spring, even better. I didn't see any problems at all with using a heat gun, as long as you're, you know, on the low setting. It doesn't need a lot of heat for that stuff to start to give and bend. When it's very cold, it can be really, really brittle, so be careful. Okay, I'll get set up and we'll do a couple of bends. Here we go. Right, I thought I'd thrown it away. In fact, hang on a minute. Hang on, that's more like it. There we go. I thought I'd thrown this away. It's the one that I did. Well, I actually used a lighter to start off with, and that's why there's a little bit of black on there. That's my mark for the bend, but you can see it's just slightly blackened. So don't use a lighter, whatever you do, because it doesn't like that. So if you look at that, you can see how basically it's just kinked up on this side, and there's also, it's gone quite thin around here as well. You can see a noticeable reduction in the section. I think if I put my hand inside, yes, you can also feel it shrunk on the inside as well. So essentially the wall thickness around that area there is greatly reduced. So it's stretched up there and it's crumpled down here, and that's obviously far too aggressive a bend when you haven't got an internal spring to use. And obviously you can get those through Marleys, or Marley as they're called. What's the pipe if you're in New Zealand? See if there's one here, look, here we go. So this is the stuff. See on there, look, Marley, Armour, yes, below ground, UPVC, electrical, conduit. So it does tell you on there what it's meant for. Hoping I can get away with using this above ground, like I said before. Okay, so first of all, we'll use the old heat gun. Good for drying your hair in the morning. Yeah, I don't have enough hair to do that. That's good. It's actually pretty hot. Anyway, so we'll use this, and we're going to use it on the low setting, which is just there, look. Jeez, don't burn your phone, Mr. Young. and we'll see if we can replicate what not to do on the pipe. And then I have one last piece here. It's a big long bit. It is spare, but I'll only use the end bit so I can cut it off, and so I'm not wasting too much, because I might need some more. Ben's put up a shed in the garden. He's going to need some power, so I'll get him to dig a trench, I think. Line it with sand, pop that in there, job's a carrot. Okay, so we'll do what not to do on this piece. Here we go. Right, we'll just pop that in the vise, and we'll put a bend somewhere around this area here. That should work just fine. Okay, so we're on setting 1, the middle setting there, look. And we're just going to warm it up all in one place, but around the tube. And once it starts to get some heat in it, just going to put a little bit of pressure on the pipe. And you'll feel when it starts to give. In fact, I'll do it towards you and then you can see the kink start. So we're only about 3 or 4 degrees now. You can see already the pipe starting to distort around this area, and there's a build-up of material. And we've got a distinct kink now, and I would say we're only maybe sort of about 5 degrees at that, which is not a lot. So clearly that, well, you can see how floppy it gets, can't you? Clearly that is not the way to do it. If that spring was inside, it would help to hold that out, you know. Wouldn't be such a problem then. So we'll let that dry, harden up. There we go, look. Right, now I might actually do it on this. It's, again, slightly different to what we got with the one where I used the lighter. So that was a really bad example, to be honest. Well, a really good example of not using a lighter. And you can see here with that, there's quite a distinct depression. If you look down the actual tube, you can see down there or not, but you can see that there's quite a restriction now. I mean, I would have got the cable still through there, but that's not the right way of doing it. It doesn't look right. Very unprofessional. I'm sure many of you professional electricians will agree. So what we'll do is we'll just stick this one in the vise. I'm not going to use the long piece. We'll use this bit, and we'll do the same thing. But I'm just going to basically put a bend in here, a radius, and we'll do lots of small movements, small bends, and we should hopefully, you know, not get that problem. But really, we do need a spring. I mean, actually, if I stripped a front fork down, I probably would find a spring the right diameter to sit in there. But they're all buried, so it's not going to happen. If you've got any old motorcycle forks, you might find that the spring fits. Or an old air rifle, they have long springs in, don't they? Right, here we go. So again, just trying to warm it up evenly. It is quite a warm day today, so it shouldn't. The ambient temperature is quite high, and we are only on the on the low setting on this heat gun. I don't want to cook it. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on it. You'll feel it start to go. There we go. Look. Right, we'll turn that off. So we've managed about maybe 3 degrees of bend. Now obviously we're not going to be going to 90 degrees because we can just use a 90-degree bend. I did also find out on the Marley website, contrary to what I was told by the supplier, and I'll have words with them, that you can actually get a 45-degree bend as well as a 90. So I might get a few of those for stock for next time round, because I'm sure I'll be using Conduit a lot more in the future. It makes a much tidier job, and I've got actually got the airline, the air compressors in a different shed. So right, that's hardened up, and if you give it a few minutes before you do the next one, it just means that whole section there can go nice and cool. We can give it a little blow off with the airline actually, that'll cool it down. So hold your ears. There we go. Okay, so just to give you an idea, if you can see that on the camera or not, there we are. We've managed probably, it's quite a shallow bend, maybe about 3 degrees, I reckon that is. And that might just be enough for what you want, you know, rather than stress the pipe and have it, you know, bent. At least you've got a distinct bend in it. It looks more purposeful, doesn't it? Right, so we'll stick that one in there again, and we'll do a second bend. I won't do it, but you can just keep repeating this along there, and you'll be able to bend it without creating a kink. That's the idea. So we'll move down a little bit. Where's my airline? Back. So you can see now we've actually got a slightly more aggressive bend. There's 2 points on there. There's one here. You can just feel I can just feel the imprint, and a second one here. Look. So that was the first one we did, nearest the that bit, and then there's the second one. So it's actually looking pretty good, and you can just keep repeating that process. But you've got to go maybe another inch down the pipe before you can put another slight bend in it. But it does work, and it's hasn't compromised the thickness of the wall, and it looks nice and neat and tidy. So there you go. That was my helpful hint from what I learned yesterday doing this stuff. But in the future I'll definitely get a spring that goes down the inside as well, and that'll make an even tidier job. So there you go. I brought you along on my pretty much the first ever adventure on doing Conduit using the Marley products. They're not a sponsor, it's just the stuff that I bought because I know it's good gear. Yes, I'm sure there'll be many comments to say, Andy, you should have done it this way. I'm a qualified electrician. This is what I do. Please also bear in mind that, you know, some products that you may use in your country, back in the UK, US, wherever, may not be available here in New Zealand. So there is that variance. Sometimes you can't use what I can't use what you use. But I suppose the principles are all the same. Anyway, hopefully you've benefited from this video in some way. My real take from it, and my advice to anybody out there that's putting up a workshop or a garden shed or a garage, it's pretty damn expensive, you know, for your tradespeople. And, you know, I priced up this job, and from a labour perspective, having the electrician put in the conduit, you know, his time to do it was actually really expensive. And the cost for him just to come down and wire up the 2 ends of the cable, you know, one at the fuse box, one at the distribution box where the meter is, and the other one at the fuse box here in the workshop, he quoted me about 120 bucks, which I thought was, you know, pretty damn good going. He said it'd be about an hour's work. So great, that's fine. Compare that to probably a day's job, putting up the conduit, putting the cable through, mounting the fuse box, all that kind of stuff, and then wiring it up. that was going to be, you know, probably eight times that, which is, you know, a lot of money that I can save doing myself. So do speak to your electrician first if this is something that you want to do, but most of them don't have any problems at all in you laying the cable. They'll give you some advice of where it should go best, how to install it, what materials to use and where to get it from. This chap that I dealt with helped me enormously. I forget his name, it was a few months ago. I will need to contact him shortly to come and plumb it all up, won't I? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, why not click on the subscribe button. You'll see a little gear icon turn up. Click on the gear icon, and then you can tick the box and turn on notifications. And our friends down at YouTube, well, they're going to send you an email as and when I upload any new videos. Same thing happens if you ring the bell. Now, you'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals. There's also a Patreon page. Now, there's a link on the home page to Patreon, to the Andy Mechanic Patreon page. Click on that, it'll take you through. And then you're going to be able to you know, read all about the history of the channel, where it came from, why it was started, up and coming projects, and of course the profiles for all the Andy Mechanic tool girls. And also, I'm just about to release a video, yeah, spoiler alert, just about to release a video on how you can purchase your own 2020 Andy Mechanic Tool Girl calendar. What, Andy? What did you say? That I said it was an Andy Mechanic Tool Girl calendar. Now, this is a calendar that was asked for last year about this time. I never had time to do it, didn't get around to it. Since then, Tool Girl Lily's come on board, and of course, a Tool Girl calendar had to happen this year. So I've done a limited run of 100 calendars. That's not many for 43,500 subscribers out there. But you know, first come, first serve. The calendars will be signed by a couple of the tool girls, I'm hoping, and they will be numbered as limited edition calendars. So get in there early. Watch out for the video. Only patrons can purchase the calendar in advance. So if you want one early and make sure you get one, become a patron too. Geez, what a sales pitch. Anyway, what else? Yes, now if you want to donate, you can do that through Patreon, and you can also do now a PayPal donation. If you go onto the home page, you'll see a little tiny PayPal icon. Click on that, and then you can do a monthly donation if you want, or you can just do a one-off. Easy, isn't it? All right, crew. Well, that's about it. I've got to get cleaned up and drive back to Auckland. See you later. Over and out. And we get the flip up again.
Oh!
Really?